Welcome back to the Open Wheel Offline League Season 4, race number 7. It's the fourth running of the Open Wheel Offline League Indianapolis 300. The field has been set through 4 hours of qualifying last weekend, as we are about to go through the field back to front, and now we are able to manually set the grid. Just a little bit of an interesting start procedure, but I'll get into that. So starting, we're going through rows of 3. We have 24 cars, so we'll start out in row 8. On the outside is 75 of Jacob Abel, rough qualifying, and he will be starting from the rear, but look for him to move forward, as in 23rd, middle of row 8, Alessio Deletta. He's a guy to look out for. He was fast at the Triple Crown last season, did not finish lower than second at all 3 races. Although he starts deep in the field, don't look over him. And then teammate Benjamin Peterson, time was pulled, ended up going slower, and was moved all the way back to row 8 when he could have started up in row 6. So it's going to be an interesting day for Banshees of Little Miami, as Lindsey Brewer also deep in the field. Despite winning last season, she'll be in the outside of row 7. But look for her to try to move forward, as they're trying to line up Mahavir Raghunathan. Actually, I am not quite sure what they are doing. What are we doing? Can we be normal? Okay, I don't know what that was about, but in the middle of row 7, we have the 54 of Mahavir Raghunathan. This is his lowest starting spot in all Open Wheel Offline League Indy 300s. He's going to be starting deep in the field. And then rookie Brennan Hubbard will be making his debut at the Indy 300 for Viking Racing, all the way back in row 7. As we move forward to row 6, we have Road Atlanta winner Catherine Legg starting deep in the field, unlike teammate David Malukas, who is much further up, but she's probably going to be moving forward as she already has a damaged front wing. We haven't even gone green. As then in the inside, but should be Yuki Tsunoda, but he is not in order. They're figuring it out. But it's Yuki Tsunoda, had a rough qualifying, but happy to qualify in the middle of row 6 with how it went. He did win the only other oval this season, so look for him to try to move forward. And then Callum Ilott, he's won here before back in season 2, so don't count him out. Row 5, Shane Van Gisbergen, not really an oval guy. Although his teammates are in the front row, he's going to be all the way back in row 5, second worst qualifying effort of the season. Really got to try to move forward to get some championship points, as Gail Barnhart is in the middle of row 5, also had an interesting qualifying day 1, but he'll be starting in the middle, furthest back of Silly Men Racing, as then on the inside of row 5 is Ethan Martz in his second Indy 300, in his best starting spot this season. Then row 4, all these drivers got bonus points for qualifying inside the top 12. Miles Rowe will be starting on the outside of row 4 for Eventide Racing's first Indy 300, with Chet Jordan in the middle. He's very good at ovals. A lot of his wins have come on ovals. So he's a guy to watch. He finished 3rd last season. Then teammate Marcus Armstrong is on the inside of row 4, looking for basically to keep his ride, as it's been rumored that he may not remain at the team. Then we go into row 3, Stingray Robb, 4th Indy 300. Hasn't won one yet, but he would really like to win this one, as teammate Glubler Lore will be in the middle of row 3. So we're going to have to see if the teammates can work together to move forward. Then Guy Gagne will be on the inside for his second Indy 300. Starts in row 3 once again, just like last season. We're going to have to see what he can do from there. As now into the front two rows, Robbie Lohr, with a good qualifying effort, has gotten enough bonus points to have the points lead back. But will he keep them after this race? We're going to have to find out. And then on the middle of row two, Connor Zilic in that number 9 that did not complete a single turn at last season's Indy 300. So Connor Zilic has a lot to show for the team. And then in the inside, David Malukas was fast at Texas, looking for a strong Indy 300, will be right there in the mix. Last season's pole winner and season 2 runner-up Ryan Preece starts on the outside of row 1, also coming off a win at Virginia. And then Dorian Pin in the middle, looking for her first race win for Swindlers of the Immortals. Gonna be starting up at the front, but was not able to beat teammate Louis Foster, who starts on pole. So they're gonna say the pace car will come in this lap and it's green, but that's not actually our race start. We're gonna want them lined up side by side in rows of 2, at least. So they'll come to what is essentially green, then we'll go through another laps of pace laps, and then 120 laps, and then to compensate for the pace laps that are added, we've extended the race to 123 laps, but it's essentially 120. I did see some damage to the 07, so that's going to be interesting. We're going to have to see if she can overcome that. But let's take a look at your weather really quick. 78 degrees, track temp 127. It's a hot day. As your starting lineup will scroll through the top once again. Trying out a new starting procedure to have the cars actually start in the order they qualified. Which, wouldn't that be nice? Should have some interesting shuffling around on the first few laps as drivers try to, your fast guys try to move forward and your slow guys get pushed backwards. Banshees of Little Miami start 21st through 23, although they finished 1-2 last season. Both of those cars all 3 of those cars gonna be deep in the field. Gonna have to see if they can move forward. But Swindlers 1-2 at the top. A lot of team cars starting near each other, as you also have the Magenta Trees, Glubler, and Stingray 8th and 9th. Silly Men Racing have Marcus Armstrong, Chet Jordan, and Gale Barnhart all within breathing distance of each other. As we have some cars who are pitting. That's not supposed to be what they were gonna do, but whatever. Give up your starting position. See if I care. So we will be going green this time. I'm just gonna pretend that the cars came in was a pit lane start. Don't worry about that. So Louis Foster on pole, teammate Dorian Pin will be on the outside. As then we have Ryan Preece right behind, looking for his first Indy 300 win. So, pace car will pull off this time. 120 laps ahead, 300 miles. A lot of money to be won for the teams. as we come off turn 4. As Alessio Deletta trying to catch up to the field, but we are green for the Indianapolis 300. Louis Foster gets a big jump as Ryan Preece will slot into second. As Dorian Pinn already back into second, jumps Ryan Preece, who had to check up a lot in turn 1, as now he's going to the inside. At least trying to take a look. David Malukas on the outside. Looking for a way around. And he's going to get there. David Malukas now into third. Essentially, that was your first lap. As Dorian Pinn now looking for a move on her teammate. Gonna have to see if the teammates work together to try to move forward. As these top 3 are breaking away, David Malukas with a gutsy move on the inside of Dorian Pinn, as now they're drag racing down the backstretch. Side by side still, but David Malukas almost clear. Still side by side, as now the 25 will get ahead. All cars still in this. Nobody's been taken out just yet. As Dorian Pinn getting shuffled back just a bit. Louis Foster up to an 7/10 lead as they battle behind. So some cars topped up on fuel, but forfeited their starting spots. Oddly, both Silly Men racing cars decided to do so, and they're now buried deep in the field, Glubler being one of them, which was odd to sacrifice a good starting spot, as Louis Foster still pulling away. Guy Gagné riding in 4th, started in 7th, looking pretty good so far, as Shane Van Gisbergen has moved into the top 10, as he sits back in 9th, now 10th, as Brennan Hubbard has moved all the way up to 9th early on in this running. Connor Zilich and Robbie Lohr battling. They're focused on the championship. Track temp pretty hot, so a lot of these guys gonna have to be careful with how they manage the tires, and Louis Foster, he is just in his own world. David Malukas and Ryan Preece battling side by side down the backstretch. Preece gonna get ahead, but Malukas is gonna try to go around the outside and just barely squeezes by. David Malukas back into second, but now 1.6 seconds behind Louis Foster, who's still just getting ahead. Dorian Pinn tries to get by Guy Gagné, but can't quite get by. He's got to look at the outside, but it doesn't seem to be an option. Shane Van Gisbergen still cutting his way through the field. He's now up to P8. All 3 Swindlers of the Immortals cars in the top 10 now. Glubler now up to 14th. I think he may be the first of the cars at pit, as Dorian Pinn now has a run and gets by Gagné, as Preece and Malukas continue to battle. Now Louis Foster is burning a lot more fuel than these other guys, so seeing him at a 2-second lead will probably make him have to come in sooner. He could be looking at a 3-stop race, 30, 60, 90, but if you can't make 30, it may be really bad for you. As these two continue to battle, if they are just holding each other back. 2.67 seconds to Louis Foster. All 24 cars still hanging on and in this, as Ethan Martz has been cycled all the way to the back after a good qualifying effort, and Stingray Rob is kind of struggling to cut forward. David Malukas still trying to battle the 64 car. Clearly not working together, and that is just hindering each other's performance. And there's no guarantees that there's going to be yellow flags, so whatever happens, you gotta really think ahead to the end of this race, as teammates for Viking Racing temporarily go side by side. Zilich wants to move forward and get by Gagne, as now Dorian Pin has caught up to the two in front, and she nearly slides up into Priest. That nearly ended badly. Priest now looking at another move. They keep getting very close to each other. Just a couple inches from disaster, as now Dorian Pin has a run and is trying to make a move on Ryan Priest. Looks up the inside, can't quite get there. Lucas hopes that Priest will get stuck battling with Pin, because that means he could have a chance to try to reel Foster back in. But right now that 11 looks like the guy to beat. Gagne, Zilich, Robbie now getting chased down by Van Gisbergen, as he looks to move forward. As here goes Van Gisbergen, trying to look up the inside, but not able to get there, as Priest and Pin continue to battle for third. 3.5 seconds is the gap. Oh, nearly ends bad, and it nearly ends bad again. They are very close to contact. And those were some big checkups. We nearly saw the first yellow of the day immediately, as Pin will drop behind Gagne and Zilich. Zilich still riding behind his teammate Gagne. Now he's going to the inside to try to defend from Pin, but Pin now has the draft, and that was a not very good defense by Connor Zilich, kind of just let her go. Callum Ilott has nearly worked his way into the top 10, up to 11th. Started all the way back in 16th, has made up some good spots, but Van Gisbergen now making another move on Robbie, as Pin and Gagne fight. No draft help for these two, really, both kind of in their own world, as Robbie will hold off Van Gisbergen, and Gagne gonna try to go around the outside of Pin. Oh, and they get close. Turn 3, very sketchy. As Van Gisbergen now ahead of the 30. But Robbie coming back. By this point last season, we had already seen our first yellow. Today, they're seeming to be a bit more calm. Callum Ilott, Catherine Legg. Catherine Legg's wing damage not seeming to be a problem, as she continues to work forward. last season winner here, Lindsey Brewer, sees a battle in front of her that nearly goes bad. And a big dive around the outside of Glubler, who has just fallen back. We talked earlier, he had moved his way up through the field, but maybe his tires have gone as David Malukas' gap to Louis Foster has stabilized at about 3.5 seconds. But Priest has reeled Malukas back in, and it seems the 64 is the faster car, but just can't get ahead and stay ahead of the 25. See in the background, Pin going side by side with Gagne. Oh, and Priest nearly slides up into Malukas. And that is even more time lost. As you can see on the track map, the top Louis Foster is now closer to Martin Raghunathan at the back of the field. About half a lap apart, lap traffic could become an issue for these guys. 4 seconds is the gap. $5 million to the winning car. And right now, Foster looks pretty tough to beat. But the utter lack of cooperation between the 25 and the 64 definitely hurting both of their races. First pit stop should be soon. Again, we're looking at that 30 to 40 range as Malukas is kind of driving away from Priest. As the tires go, it's becoming harder and harder. Now, granted, we're actually at about lap 19. Really take the lap count and subtract 3, as here goes Callum Ilott and Marcus Armstrong battling for 11th. Ilott's going to get ahead, and Catherine Legg's going to get the draft. And Marcus Armstrong's going to be shuffled out as Catherine Legg looking at a dive bomb in turn 1. Not quite able to get there. And the track temp being really high is very much a factor on how these cars are driving, and it's making them more difficult to handle. So those guys that basically did a pit lane start, we're gonna have to see if that really pays off with where the leaders have to pit. 4.5 seconds now. Louis Foster in his own realm right now. You go to the blimp, you can really just see the gap all the way in turn 2 as they are in turn 1. Zilich back and forth, Pin in 5th, Gagne 6th, Van Gisbergen and Robbie still continue to battle. Really, when you get those two cars stuck together, they can't really unstick. As we are scrolling through the whole field right now. There's 2 of your Banshees of Little Miami cars. As David Malukas is in the wall. How did this happen? All by himself, sitting comfortably in 2nd, and the car seems to have just gone. Did Priest catch up to him and put him in the wall? Yes he did. He got the draft and got by him, and then Malukas tried to Oh, and just way too aggressive. And that is going to put him in the wall, and that is the first yellow of the day. And David Malukas' day is done. See if we can go back and go on board with the 25 to just see. So Priest lifts and he just tries to catch up and wheel to wheel. And he is the car that loses out. So that is day done for the 25. And the 11's big gap is gone as we are seeing split strategies. Louis Foster gonna lead Ryan Preece in, and Connor Zilic will go to the race lead. Only 4 cars staying out. Surprisingly, I don't think any of them pit earlier. We're gonna have to see the stint length. No, all 4 that stayed out did not pit earlier. So race off pit lane. We're gonna have to see. It's all down to the crews. And Priest is gonna jump ahead of Louis Foster. Very slow stop for the 11 team. And suddenly what looked to be perfectly in his control now gonna be 6th, and we're gonna have to see, can that 11 car fight through the traffic. The 9 of Connor Zilic, now your race leader. Viking Racing has already led more laps than laps they completed last season at the Indy 300. So far, it's looking up. But we're really gonna have to see how long can these guys that stayed out go. Are they just gonna immediately pit when we go green? Are they just trying to get some clean air? Because I think the cars that pit, they're gonna have a really wonky way to the end. They're gonna be looking at about 54, 84. That math? Yeah, I think that's math. So they're still gonna be doing, and then probably 114. So the guys that pit aren't gonna make it safely to green or safely to the end, and might need 3 stops, barring some yellows. But the cars that stayed out, they are going to lose some track time pitting, but they are probably only going to need 2 more stops to the end. So Zilic, Pin, Jordan, Nylot, we're going to have to watch what those 4 do, as we'll have a double file restart this time. Suddenly the strategy turned on its head. So Connor Zilic from the middle of row 2 up at the front. Then it's Dorian Pin, Chet Jordan, Callum Ilott, Ryan Preece, Louis Foster, Guy Gagne, Shane Van Gisbergen, Catherine Legg, and Robbie Lohr as your top 10, with David Malukas as the 24th and final car, as he is already out of the race early on. Pace car will pull off this time, as let's get ready to go back green. As they accelerate once again, green flag back out, Dorian Pim, we're going to have to see if she can hold that outside this time. But Chet Jordan, he's going to try and slot into second, as big checkups, a lot of drivers in some strange places now, as Louis Foster trying to get back to the lead on this strategy, as Connor Zilic out front, but Dorian Pin going to look to the inside. Dorian Pin now to the race lead, Gonna try to keep the Swindlers in control on both strategies. Louis Foster now 5th as Shane Van Gisbergen is now up into 6th, but there goes Guy Gagné. The restarts are a little hectic. Connor Zilic now gonna try and swap with Dorian Pin for the lead, but you gotta be careful. We've seen it go wrong now. So there is danger. Everyone in the middle of the pack, this is a good time for them to try to gain some spots. You have some fresh tires. So this is the time to push your way forward as Ryan Preece has gotten swamped and has fallen back to 9th. Whoa, Alessio Deletta and Marcus Armstrong getting close. Connor Zilic and Dorian Pin now trying to drive away from the rest of the field. Zilic taking a look. It's a little bit of a late look. But it's going to be interesting to see when the 03, 9, 24, and 18 pit. But so far on older tires, they're holding well against Louis Foster. Gagne a little bit further back as Catherine Legg trying to push forward. Teammate David Malukas fell out of it. I guess the green car curse caught him. It's Guy Gagné way high up the racing line. You got to be very careful because then you get into the marbles. And that upsets the car. There's less grip out there. And he nearly went for a ride. As he goes high once again, he is playing a very dangerous game. But 03 still leads by about half a second. Callum Ilott about to fall to the 11. Gonna have to see how well this 11 can pass. We can see him. We've seen him lead, but can he hold it? A lot of strange shuffling around. Mahavir Raghunathan was at the back of the grid before the yellow. He's moved up into 17th. Brennan Hubbard's moved backwards. He's now fallen to 15th. So a lot of shuffling as this group still battling. Guy Gagné has gotten by Shane Van Gisbergen and now Ryan Preece, the two champions of Open Wheel Offline League. Both have finished on the podium here. Go toe to toe. Connor Zilic still keeping up with Dorian Pin, not losing her yet. It's going to be interesting to see how these green flag pit stops play out once they happen. Right now they're at about 31 of 120. So again, keep in mind we're about 3 laps off the actual count. As it's starting to single file out as Connor Zilic has gotten to the lead and Dorian Pin runs into the back of him. And that has maybe damaged a wing, I'm not too sure. But they're all coming into pit lane, so it seems fine. But Louis Foster going to be back to the lead with a pretty sizable gap, 2.2 seconds on Catherine Legg, who's going to have trouble with Guy Gagné. So Louis Foster once again will get off to a big lead. But we're going to have to see, is this a normal stop for the 03 and the 9? We saw a little bit of contact. The wing looks fine. Seems to have just been maybe a light touch. But the 03, a pretty long stop to the 9, who has gotten off a lot farther ahead. So right now the 9 in a good spot. But Louis Foster, he's coming in hot. He's going to get by the 24 of Chet Jordan, but going to be stuck behind his teammate. As the 90 of Guy Gagné gets by Catherine Legg and Van Gisbergen and Preece make a little bit of contact. Oh, Gagné slow right in the middle of the racing line. Everyone kind of swerving. Right now, Dorian Pin just ahead of Louis Foster. Not going to make it so easy for him to get away. Still has built it back to a 4-second lead. Dorian Pin going to be a nice teammate and let him by, but Connor Zilich, I don't believe will be the same. As Guy Gagné has now fallen back to 5th. Catherine Legg, Ryan Preece, Shane Van Gisbergen have all gone by. But this is a cluster that needs to be sorted out if they want to keep with Louis Foster. But Dorian Pin riding right behind him, looking to save some fuel. And this is bad for Foster leading all these laps because, yeah, to us it looks strong and like, oh, he's going to dominate, but he's burning a lot of fuel compared to the other guys. We saw Zilich come in at, what, about 30-ish, a little bit after. So he's going to safely be able to make it to the end on 2 stops where these guys need some help, and Foster leading by this much is only going to hurt as Ryan Preece stuck on the inside. He's going backwards. Robbie Lauren, Marcus Armstrong hanging on as Gagné now trying to make a move on Van Gisbergen. Oh, contact a little bit. Oh, and that gets very jumbled up very quickly. You still see the gap between the 9 and the 03 on the track map. Really a jarbled mess right now as Van Gisbergen is now ahead. As Catherine Legg has kind of gotten away a little bit, has now caught up to Chet Jordan. But Chet Jordan I don't think is going to be super helpful in letting her by. Whoa. Currently best time that I see fastest lap looks to be Ryan Preece, I believe, with a 38.5. That appears to be the fastest lap. But last lap time, Foster a 39.0, Catherine Legg a 39.5, so still losing time doesn't help battling the 24 as Yuki Tsunoda and Glubler Lore battle side by side going into turn 2. Catherine Legg still with the 24 and losing time as Ryan Preece is now catching up. The 11 has kind of broken away from the 0-3 of Dorian Pin. Connor Zilich still ahead. Gonna have to see how much of a fight he is able to put up or if he's comfortable with just letting the 11 go. Rest of the cars at pit as Preece trying to get into second. Catherine Legg, don't make the same mistake that your teammate did. But you have the 9 of Connor Zilich a little bit further back, Dorian Pin. Chet Jordan is up here. Callum Ilott is a bit further back as here's a little cluster. Stingray Rob has gotten into the top 10. He now runs 8th. As Preece and Catherine Legg still continue to battle. 6.5 second lead for Louis Foster. Looking pretty big. But is he going to make it to the end of this race? I think this next time you need to make it to, I'd say, 63 for the next stop. I think 63 and you're making it on one more stop after that. We're going to have to see if he can do that. As these two have broken away from Chet Jordan, but have not broken away from each other. which is going to cause an issue. Lindsey Brewer, last season winner here, has now broken into the top 10, now running 9th. Best of her teammates with Alessio Deletta back in 12th and Benjamin Peterson in 15th. So moving forward, as Shane Van Gisbergen and Guy Gagné still are battling, these two have not left each other's sides, as Louis Foster has nearly caught up to the 9 of Connor Zilic, trying to lap him. A lot more quiet here than when you start going back into the swarm, as the 07 and the 64 go side by side for a little bit. Louis Foster, I can definitely say, probably getting the most laps led award for this event, bar something happen. Priest and Legs still side by side, very sketchy. Turn 3 had some incidents last season, has had a lot of incidents in season 1 and 2. As Lindsey Brewer now pushing forward, showing that she is a winner here. Currently sits 5th. A lot of tire conservation now as you try to move forward. Marcus Armstrong with a big move. They're nearly 3 wide back there. That won't work. And this barely works. That got very sketchy. Connor Zilic still ahead of Louis Foster. Foster now getting a little bit of a tow. Maybe lifting just a bit. Gonna have to see 250. Yeah, he's lifting, which will definitely help in fuel saving. What he likes to see. But for the guys that are a lap down, a yellow flag, if a yellow flag came out now, it'd be pretty bad for him. For Zilic, he'd just cycle to the lead if everyone pit. But right now, he's still managing the 11 and starting to pull away just a little bit, maybe. Nah, it's still pretty close. The 07 and 64 still haven't left each other's sides. Van Gisbergen, still the leader of the swarm, trying to break away. But the 47 is getting a huge draft. This would be a good points day for Shane Van Gisbergen towards the championship, but this would also be a good points day for Louis Foster as they run. As Catherine Legg, Ryan Priest battle side by side. It's nearly a 9-second, it is a 9-second lead, which is very crazy just to imagine. As now Foster has caught up to Zilic. Will Zilic be difficult for him? Easily the strongest performance in an Indy 300 that I've seen. Lindsey Brewer's last season was pretty good. But this one looks to be even better. But this 9 could be an issue. He is fine just riding, as no, he's going to go around now. Reminder, he is trying to make it to lap 63. Zilic way high in the turn. Foster on a bit of older tires, so not able to do as crazy of moves. As Zilic is holding him back, he has lost about a second from Priest and Legg, as the 9 is bullying him. He's going to try to make a move here. Zilich going to try to stay high. And he is going to stay ahead, which is going to hurt the 11. Connor Zilich really trying to help out the rest of the field by holding this 11 back, but that is saving him fuel. So a lot of strategy being taken into consideration right on board with the 11 of Louis Foster. Yeah, big lifts. So still watching to see when he pits. Lovler has caught. He's gone into the top 10. Moving forward, Jacob Abel from last place has moved up to 8th. So looking pretty solid. Lindsey Brewer still very racy with the 90 of Gagne. But Foster is battling Connor Zilich. This could be what it comes down to. Right now, Zilich has seemed to be the only car that's really been able to hold the 11 back, as he's been able to escape everyone else. Didn't have a good run at Texas, DNF'd early. Did not do last season's Indy 300. It was actually Jack Harvey in the car for a one-off. Before it became full-time, hired Louis Foster to run out the rest of the season in the 54 car at Team Eggs. Hired for Swindlers of the Immortals, looking to be the first repeat winner of the season, looking to be a rookie Indy 300 winner, as his gap to Leg and Priest has grown as these two continue to battle with no one in between them to really prevent or hold them back. Looking at second on their strategy as the 11 of Louis Foster now side by side with Zilich. Is Zilich able to hang out this time? No, he isn't. And Louis Foster going to get ahead. Zilich desperately needs to stay with or get back by, because this could be what it comes down to. Big draft off the 11. Looking at the inside, and he's going to get back to the front and kind of made that pass look easy. But again, this is a whole lap difference between these two cars. So 57, Foster is close to the number that he needs to make. Drafting off the 9. Line down the backstretch. Still a pretty big gap to Dorian Pin behind, who is running 21st currently behind Connor Zilich. Gonna have to see where they cycle out once everything is set. As Foster pits now, that is not the number he needs to hit to make it to the end. And that will give the lead not to Catherine Legg, but to Ryan Priest, who's going to lead his first laps today. I believe he may have gotten to the line first. Louis Foster, he comes into pit lane. We're going to have to see how well the stop was. His stop under the yellow flag was not very good. Will this one be better? .6 seconds, it's pretty good. Beats Catherine Legg's time by 0.1 seconds. Zilich about to go by him. Or at least trying to. as they're shuffling around at the front. Ryan Preece now your leader as Shane Van Gisbergen pits. Mahavir Raghunathan, you see him coming in the back. The 9 and the 11 now battle going down the front stretch. We have to see who can make it to lap 63, and it's not Ryan Preece. Lindsey Brewer, could she be pulling off a fuel save once again? She's not going to be able to do it this time so far. Marcus Armstrong, now your race leader. Gonna have to see what this 33 can do, trying to make it to lap 63. Connor Zilic leads Louis Foster. And this could be what it is at the end, so watch this 9 and the 11. There's a lot of interesting strategy going on. But the 9 is ahead. Marcus Armstrong now behind Shane Van Gisbergen. He's not able to make it any further. But those two that came in earlier, the Magenta Trees now run 1-2 as Glubler now to the race lead. Everything's starting to cycle out. Village leads Foster, and then Pin, Priest, and Leg with who we think can make it. Anyone make it past lap 63? Glubler, he's going to be one shy. He's going to come in now. Robbie going to come in. Everyone else is coming in now. So Connor Zilic will take the race lead. And he'll be able to stay out. So right now, it's looking good for Connor Zilic with what is essentially a 2-second lead over Louis Foster. Field pretty spread apart right now. Dorian Pin running third, trying to chase down teammate Louis Foster, looking for her first win for Swindlers of the Immortals, and Catherine Legg and Ryan Preece still on top of each other. Chet Jordan gonna cycle to 6th, Glubler 7th. Where is Callum Ilott in all this? He may have pit early, so he may have bailed, which will cycle him pretty much out of contention. So you look at the stint length, Zilic has done about 29. Foster was able to do 32. So some of these guys looking to stretch to the end. As here comes Dorian Pin trying to make a pass on her teammate for second. And this is the first time we've really seen Louis Foster come under fire. As Connor Zilic pits now, Dorian Pin coming in now. These two we know are pretty safe to the end. It's everyone else, and especially Louis Foster, that may not be safe. Priest gonna cycle to 2nd, Catherine Legg in 3rd, as Dorian Pin now coming in. Connor Zilic needs a good stop here. Can't lose any time. Zilic 9.8 seconds, not ideal. Here comes Dorian Pin. 9.6, a bit faster. Chet Jordan in as well. You can see pretty noticeably Foster and for some reason Legg had much shorter last stints. So it's going to be tough to see if the 11 makes it to the end, but with cars in front, he could get some help. Like his teammate Dorian Pin just in front. But even ahead of her, you start getting into the lapped cars of the 95 and the 54. who could be difficult for not only him, but Connor Zilic as well. As Foster sits behind Dorian Pin, he's making some fuel, but losing time. As Ryan Preece has kind of gotten away from Catherine Legg. Oh, and that's a late move on... Oh, that got very close between the two teammates. That'll help fuel save, but those underwears are brown. That got very sketchy. Marcus Armstrong currently sits fourth, having a very good run at it at what could be his final race. If he does not finish well. Having a strong run, Glubler in fifth. Looking pretty solid. Shane Van Gisbergen in sixth. As Callum Ilott pits now. I was not quite sure what his strategy was. And I'm kind of confused at where he's at, but he should be safe to the end on one more stop after this, wherever he cycles out. But the 11 and the 03 continue to battle. These spots could be for position later on. Ilott will cycle to behind Chet Jordan as Chet Jordan goes by. So Ilott now sits 23rd, but that may not be where he finishes. As the 11 and 03 continue to battle. Oh, and it still gets very close. These two have gotten so close so many times. As Ryan Preece is closing in. Less than 7 seconds now to Louis Foster. This could be Foster's undoing his own teammate in Dorian Pin. Holding him back. As Connor Zilic now goes by Ethan Martz and trying to go by Mahavir Raghunathan. At the back of the lapped cars, the 54 and the 95 have looked sluggish all day. Not quite sure what's wrong with them, but Skibbity Sigma not having a great Indy 300. But Ryan Preece now 6 seconds back from Louis Foster, who is stuck behind teammate Dorian Pin, but every single time they have those very close moments, it's going to allow the 64 to close in, but the 64 has to be perfect to stay away from the 07 of Catherine Legg, who sits in third. Foster still sits behind as Connor Zilic has gotten by Mahavir Raghunathan, and now he's trying to catch up to the tail end of the blob with Miles Rowe, Benjamin Peterson, and teammate Brennan Hubbard at the back of it. As Marcus Armstrong and Glubler battle for fourth. Turn 3 is really sketchy. Way high for the 33. As he's making a move up the inside, and he will get by. Not quite, actually. The 00 fights back. Oh, and that's nearly contact in turn 2. That's the closest it's been in that turn for anybody. Glubler's now going to fall behind Van Gisbergen. Preece is now under 6 seconds. It's very close and very aggressive back here. So, looking for lap 93 for final pit stops. After that, we're going to have to see who can make it to the end based off that. But Glubler went one of the longest, so he could be in position to make it to the end. So watch that 00. Double zero, the 77, and the 30 could all end up in very good spots. And this goes back to even the beginning. So the magenta trees could be in a good spot if they continue to save, as Foster has now caught Ethan Martz, and he is not very fast for whatever reason, and the gap to Priest is dwindling, as Pin also trying to move at the same time, and just up ahead is not much faster Mahavir Raghunathan. 5.4 seconds to Priest now, as the teammates for Swindlers of the Immortals get split up, as Ethan Martz holds back the 0-3. Connor Zilich, he's almost caught the back of the blob, or at least the first blob, which is 11th Yuki Tsunoda down to 17th Miles Rowe. Barnhart, Abel, Hubbard, Deletta, Peterson, and Rowe inhabit this group. But again, I'm interested in seeing what the 77, 00, and 30 have, which could spoil Connor Zilich's plan if those cars are able to stretch to the end. 4.9 seconds to Priest. But Louis Foster getting stuck behind Ethan Martz and teammate Dorian Pin may have been enough to save him on fuel. But we're going to have to see. He needs to make it to 93, really, to be comfortably safe without fuel saving. Priest went 34 last time, stint length wise. So he's not in bad shape. But a lot of this stint has been by himself, where the last one he was swapping back and forth with Catherine Legg. Catherine Legg has now fallen backwards, and then after that it's a big gap to Shane Van Gisbergen, who also did not go very long, and then now is battling Marcus Armstrong for 4th. Not quite sure how this will play out. It's going to be interesting to see up till the end. 4.6 seconds now between Foster and Priest. Connor Zilich has now caught the back of the blob. We're going to have to see if he can cut through it or if he gets stuck. The 11 of Louis Foster now behind Mahavir Raghunathan. You can see Priest in the back. That's the closest he's been in a while. Stingray Rob now runs 4th. And again, watch Rob, watch Glubler, maybe watch Armstrong as well. A lot of these cars could be close to making it to the end on just one more stop. But 2 stops could derail everything. 4.4 seconds to Priest. But Priest has not caught up to the 95. The 11 makes quick work of the 54, but still has lost some time. Zilich trying to cut his way through. There's a lot of things to watch. Less than 4 seconds for Priest. Priest is closing in. He's finished second at the Indy 300 before. He does not want to do that again. This is really the first time he's been able to fuel save since he was battling Legg early on. Oh, but getting stuck behind Martz here is gonna lose him some time, but he will get by. But the gap's gonna be back to 4 seconds. Not much fight in the 95. As the 03 of Dorian Pin still has not gotten by Raghunathan, which Priest does not want to get stuck battling. Oh, that got close. That got close again. The 03 falling backwards, which could be bad for Priest if Priest ends up stuck with the 03. Stingray Rob now leading this blob. Really the first blob. That goes Stingray back to 10th, which is Robbie, who's one of the guys that was able to make it long on the last stint. Foster, Priest, Zilich, a lot of your guys to watch, looking for their second win this season, trying to be the first driver to win more than one this season. Glubler is in contention for what could be his first win in the Open Wheel Offline League. Most starts without a win. Stingray Rob also only has one to his name despite being around for 4 seasons. Came at Rockingham. Needs a big day today. And it could play out well for him as Foster has gotten away and the gap is building, but Foster can get away all he wants, but that blob is still something he's going to need to tackle. Speaking of which, Connor Zilich trying to move by teammate Brennan Hubbard now, proven to be a little bit difficult. He's gotten by the 2 Banshees cars of Deletta and Peterson, but now is stuck as he'll look at the outside, and with the power of the draft, he'll get by. 4.68. Priest now looking at Raghunathan on the inside. Easy pass. The VO3 up ahead, a little bit closer to the 64 than the 11. As about 10 laps till we'll start seeing the cars cycle, as Foster's now burning fuel once again in his own realm. So gap is now back to 5 seconds to Priest, who's now having a little bit of issues with Dorian Pin's dirty air. This is hotter than it ever was in qualifying. As Foster is now caught up to the back of the clump, as Connor Zilich has nearly gotten to the front of it. Only one yellow so far today, and it came early with David Malukas. But Connor Zilich is through this group. Kind of. Sonoda's trying to battle him, as Foster's now at the tail end of it. 5 seconds back is Ryan Priest, trying to catch up desperately. Miles Rowe kind of slow on the turn, allows some opportunity for the 11 to sneak through. Working out nice for him so far. 3 seconds between Priest and Legg. Van Gisbergen now almost a full lap down to the 11, but they're saving a lot more fuel than the top 3. Catherine Legg now getting around, or at least trying to get around Raghunathan. Get those first 2 lap cars out of the way. Having a little bit more difficulty than Priest did. So we're getting close to lap 93. Does Foster have enough to make it to the end? Gonna be close. If he does another 32 lap stint, he could be in a good spot. And if he does that, that's going to put some danger on everyone else. .2 seconds to Priest. Priest closing in as Foster battles through the back of the field. Currently has lapped up to 15th. as Foster comes in now, shy once again, an even shorter stint length than last time. I don't think Louis Foster is making it to the end, and Catherine Legg may not as well. Ryan Preece, he's got to try to make it to lap 93 to have a chance, but he's been in clean air for most of this time. That is only a 33 lap stint to the end for Foster and Legg, so it is doable, but it may be difficult. And Zilich not out of it. He's trying to climb up to the clump in front. As Priest will pit now. So we're going to have to see if they're going to be able to make it, as Rob has gotten away from Glubler. And Rob looks comfortable to make it to the end. I'd say if he pits now, then I think those guys at pit could be in some good space. As Foster now stuck back in the clump that he just tried to lap through. Battling with Gale Barnhart. As Priest comes in. Sorry, that was known. I'm sorry, my bad. Robbie now, or sorry, Stingray Rob, now your leader with Glubler in second, Brewer in third, Armstrong fourth, Robbie fifth, and Shane Van Gisbergen in sixth. Stingray out in front. Foster trails Zilich. But these guys, I'm starting to think they might be able to make it to the end pretty safely. Foster's going to have to do his biggest stint of the day if he wants to make it to the end on fuel. Foster stuck in this clump, losing time. Priest all the way back here. So still not quite where he'd want to be behind Foster. And a lot of cars that he'd need to get through, as Stingray has made it to lap 92. This time 93. And it looks like the magenta trees could be sitting pretty. And Lindsey Brewer right there once again. As Gagne and Van Gisbergen pulled off. We're going to have to see if they have enough. A lot of black cars, 3rd through 10th. You can see that on the banner. Foster now stuck behind Jacob Abel. He trails Zilich by about 5 seconds. And Priest is back by only 2, as Abel and Barnhart nearly come together. Foster's going to sneak through. Priest back here with Dorian Pin. Will Pin be an issue for Priest? As Glubler catching up to teammate Stingray Rob, as these two look comfortable to make it to the end. Which is bad news for Zilich, and seems like his strategy may have just imploded on itself, because he still needs to stop one more time. Stingray comes in now. Glubler gonna stay out one more lap. We're gonna have to see if that is the good strategy. Brother Robbie right behind in second, and Connor Zilich will be in third. Callum Ilott a lap down. I'm not quite sure what he was doing earlier, but whatever it is didn't seem right. The 11 of Louis Foster still stuck in traffic. Priest still down by 2 seconds, not having much help. As Robbie pits now, so does Glubler. Zilich is in, and Benjamin Peterson will take the lead of the race as he goes longest, lap 95. So Peterson, now your race leader. Foster down by 1.2 seconds. Priest down by 1.3 to Foster. But there is some lapped cars in the way. 27 of Yuki Tsunoda in between the 11 and the 64. The 11 does not have clean track ahead. As Peterson just up the road, and right behind is the 12 of Miles Rowe, who has already pitted. So Foster gonna take the lead back, but Priest is only going to be down by a second. And we have a battle to the end between the 11 and the 64. But Priest getting held up just slightly by Tsunoda. But he's going to clear, but needs to make sure that 27 doesn't fight back, or that could be bad for the 64 of Ryan Priest. And Tsunoda is trying to fight back. That is horrible news for Ryan Priest. But Louis Foster is stuck in whatever this is. The winner is going to be whoever can fight through the lap traffic the best. It's the 11 not getting help from Miles Rowe, teammate to Yuki Tsunoda. Foster, again, we don't know if he can make it to the end on fuel, neither with Priest. We feel comfortable that Glub can. He is 2 seconds up the road from Stingray. So if these two can't make it, those are the backups. Connor Zilich has slotted back into 9th after pitting. And it has closed in. Here comes Ryan Priest. The battle for the lead is on. In the 64, 25 to go. This is the closest Priest has been to Foster, but right as he catches up, Miles Rowe in the way. Foster trying to get away. Teammate Jacob Abel, teammate to Ryan Priest, right in front. And he's going to be difficult. Close the door on the 11. Half a second between the 11 of Louis Foster and the 64 of Ryan Priest. This is helping Foster save fuel to the end. But either way, we've got a battle in the closing stages. Priest to the back of Foster. And he is going to take a look to the inside, side by side for the lead. Priest. But he's got his teammate Jacob Abel, who could be difficult. But Priest has gotten ahead of Louis Foster. Ryan Priest to the lead, looking for back-to-back victories in the Open Wheel Offline League and trying to correct crashing from pole last season. Priest just barely led at the line, but Foster is going to take the lead back. But Priest fighting strong on the inside. Priest has already made contact with another car today, that being David Malukas. So aggression on the menu. As the 75 of Jacob Abel trying to hold up Foster to the best of his ability. Priest dives to the inside. Not quite enough there. "23 cars still on this track late in the race, as even more slow cars are in front. Jacob Abel dives to the inside, trying to get by Alessio Deletta. And we don't know if they can make it on fuel. It's going to be close all the way to the end. Here comes Ryan Priest. Comfortable with sitting just a bit behind, but you cannot lose Louis Foster now, as he may have just put a car in between the two of them. Two cars, actually. In one move, Louis Foster has ditched Jacob Abel and Alessio Deletta, and Jacob Abel is now right in front of his teammate who he was helping earlier. 3 wide back here. Priest is going to get by Deletta, but Foster now has put another car in the middle between the two of them. But Brennan Hubbard not making it easy being on the outside there. As Priest has caught back up, gotten by Jacob Abel, his teammate, and Priest has now gotten to the back of the 11. Again, the question still hangs in the air. Can they make it to the end? If they can't make it, Catherine Legg probably can't either, which means it could go to Glubler, as Jacob Abel now to the inside of his teammate Ryan Priest late in this race. That's not a good move to put on your teammate. Dorian Pinn lurks back there as Ryan Priest to the inside of Louis Foster. Foster trying to go around Hubbard, can't quite get there. After Hubbard, there's a little bit of a gap for lapped cars up till Shane Van Gisbergen, who must have had a miserable pit stop. Priest to the inside. He's trying to get both cars at once, and Foster's going to have to slot behind Priest. Priest and Hubbard way too close together for comfort. And now it's the drive off the turn. Priest nearly makes contact with Louis Foster. And now there's another car in between them. Jacob Abel once again in the way of his teammate. Priest slipping backwards just a bit. He needs to reorganize himself, get by his teammate here. Do not want to finish second twice here, as Foster finally gets by the 99 of Hubbard. And that is two cars in between him and Priest once again. And Priest finally starting to show some sluggishness. It's not over for the 64. But that was a huge blow. But the 99 not done with the 11. Viking Racing still trying to help out Connor Zilic the best they can. But now Dorian Pinn has put herself in the middle. Dorian Pinn still racing for some positions back here. She's going to follow teammate Louis Foster. As the 99 still proving to be difficult. As Dorian Pinn's now going to go by her teammate. As Foster is stuck on the inside, Priest is going to get a run on the outside. And he's going to go back to the lead. And suddenly, there are two cars between Priest and Foster. And how quickly the tables turn. Catherine Legg could get back into this. She's not far back either. As Priest now trying to make a move on Hubbard. But the 03 of Dorian Pinn could still prove difficult. Two cars still in the way. This is what everything comes down to. Foster trying to get by Abel now. As Alessio Deletto trying to get by Priest. That's going to hang him out on the inside. So Foster could get a run on the outside and blow by. Priest losing steam, and once again it switches back to Foster. Late in the going, the lead switching back and forth due to the lapped cars. Priest nearly had a big run as a block from Jacob Abel gets put on the 11 of Louis Foster. 75 has hurt Priest, but also helped, and that was a big moment of helping as Priest looks around the outside. Big dive. That is a gutsy move to go around the outside going into turn one like that. Priest does not want to finish second here once again. Foster trying to win this in his rookie chance. 3/10 now. One car in between. But now the 75 of Jacob Abel is the car in the way. 13 to go this time by. Can they make it on fuel is still the question, as Catherine Legg has caught up in third place. So this could become a three-car battle. Priest and Foster now. First and second, Foster going to look to the inside for the lead. Foster dominant early in the race, but Priest chipped away lap after lap, second after second. And if top three can't make it, which they may not, it goes to Glubler, who's got 5 seconds up on teammate Stingray. And then Connor Zilich would inherit third. Zilich not out of this yet. His strategy is not over. But we turn our attention back to the front. Priest leads Louis Foster. As here comes the 11 once again. Not quite able to get there. Top three, all within a second. As the 11 of Louis Foster, Ryan Priest nearly cuts him off, but they're going side by side in front of him. Oh man. Foster's going to be ahead, but Priest is going to have the outside. Foster's all over the place. Catherine Legg lurks in the background. As Priest... No! Priest is in the wall! 10 laps to go. Ryan Priest has crashed out of the Indy 300 from the lead, battling lapped cars. The yellow has not been thrown. So I will. I don't know why it didn't throw, but Ryan Priest in the wall. Oh man, that looked like it could have been his. And Foster now... what the hell? Oh man, I don't know what to say about that. That looked like it was his. So Abel, he clips Deletta and he's going to go slamming into the wall. And that's gotta hurt. There's not going to be much laps left in this either. They'll try to shorten so we can get a little bit more running time. But we have to go on board. Ryan Priest. Oh, man. So you see the big run he gets. See the 87. And then, boom. Hard in the wall. And let's see what Louis Foster saw as was the guy he was racing. Tough break. So a late yellow is going to decide how this race finishes. And Connor Zilich is right there. Do not give up on the number 9. You're going to have the lapped cars cycle out of the way, so... But man, this is gonna... It's gonna get dicey, and I don't know if this is gonna be a double file or what. As the lapped cars... I believe that is the 99 of Brennan Hubbard gonna get the lucky dog, and he's gonna go around. Lapped cars sent to the back. Man, that's... I cannot believe that. So your top 10 as they run: Louis Foster, Catherine Legg, Glubler Lore, Connor Zilich, Stingray Rob, Robbie Lore, Lindsey Brewer, Marcus Armstrong, Guy Gagne, Dorian Pinn, Gail Barnhart, Benjamin Peterson, Shane Van Gisbergen, Jacob Abel, Alessio Deletta, and Brennan Hubbard are the top 16. They're all the cars on the lead lap. Everyone else is a lap down. Unfortunately, Chet Jordan did not do too well with his alternate strategy. He is at the back in 19th, Callum Ilott even further back in 22nd. So those two did not have as good luck as Connor Zilic did. Dorian Pin did all right. But this is going to get interesting. Gonna have to see how much the 07 can battle, how much the 00 can battle. The 9, Connor Zilic, he's not out of it. He looks to have a very fast car underneath him. As 1 lap to green, we will go green. With 6 to go, looks like it will be a single file restart. Everything is to play for. The Ryan Preece once again will not finish the Indy 300. Second on debut in Season 2, DNF last year after a late crash in Turn 3. Foster leg in their first attempt. So is Zilic. Glubler, he hasn't even gotten a single win in the open wheel offline league. So we're going to have to see how aggressive that 00 is. If 6 laps to go. Pace car pulls off as Louis Foster is going to bring him back to green. 6 lap shootout until the end. Green flag. Louis Foster gets the jump on Catherine Legg. 3/10 is the gap right now. Gonna have to see if the 07 can hang on. She was able to battle Preece, so I don't see why she wouldn't be able to battle Louis Foster, but she needs to be careful because Glubler is closer. Cannot let Louis Foster get away. We've seen what he has been able to do if he gets away. As Glubler's going to try to make the move first, it gets by Catherine Legg. As this is now parachuting this group and Louis Foster's getting away, I said that you cannot let this happen, and they have simply let this happen. 8/10, they cannot be side by side going into turn 1 if they want to have a chance. Connor Zilic stuck in the middle of this as Glubler gets hit and nearly wrecks. Connor Zilic now getting by Catherine Legg. We know he has speed in this number 9. We're going to have to see if he can chase down the 11. Glubler gets muscled out of it and gets shoved beneath the grass as Connor Zilic is in second, but Louis Foster has gotten away. Unless there is a yellow, I believe the 11 has this. 2 seconds is already the gap. As Connor Zilic not able to move forward, and he is getting swamped. Well, we're back to third, but Louis Foster is now back in his own zip code. It looks like the beginning of the race all over again. But Glubler and Catherine trying to battle for second. Dorian Pin trying to cut her way through this, trying to make it a Swindler's 1-2. As now she's trying to go by Catherine Legg. 2 seconds. I don't think anyone has it in them with 3 laps to go. Glubler trying to hang on to second. Catherine Legg chasing. Dorian Pin back there in fourth. 2.5 seconds coming to 2 laps to go. Glubler trying his best, but it does not seem like he has enough in it. As Dorian Pin now going to try to go by and make it a Swindlers 1-2. Dorian Pin into second. Last season ended in a 1-2. Will it happen again? Glubler really trying to make sure that he's still in this in case something happens. But white flag for Louis Foster. This will be amazing for the team. It'll be Louis Foster's second win of the season. As this team expanded, taking on some big drivers, it looks to be that the 11 strongest car all day will be the one to get it done. Louis Foster wins the 4th running of the Indianapolis 300. And it's a 1-2 for Swindlers of the Immortals, as Dorian Pin will finish 2nd and Glubler Lore will finish 3rd. Quickly scrolling across the top is your final results, unofficial results. Man, 64 of Ryan Priest threw away what could have been it. But in return, Louis Foster has been crowned the Indy 300 champion. As now, let's take a look at your final results. Just under an hour and a half. Louis Foster is your race winner. Dorian Pin. It finishes how they started, with Foster first, Pin second. Glubler Lore, a strong effort, but third is all that there's in it. As Catherine Legg will finish fourth. Starting all the way back in row 6, that is a strong effort. Stingray Rob finishes 5th. Robbie Lore 6th. It's going to be strong. I don't know if it'll be enough to hang on to the championship, but I assume it should be. Connor Zilich seemed to have a very fast car, but not enough fight in it at the end. His teammate Guy Gagné will finish 8th. Lindsey Brewer will finish 9th. Pretty good defense of her previous Indy 300, just not enough at the end. Gail Barnhart will round out the top 10 in 10th place. In 11th, Benjamin Peterson. As 12th is Alessio Deletta. Will not be able to have his streak of top 2 finishes at the Triple Crown continue. Shane Van Gisbergen, for what looked to be pretty good, did not finish strong, all the way down in 13th, as Jacob Abel will finish 14th from last place. Marcus Armstrong, all the speed he had seemed to have vanished at the end, as he'll finish all the way down in 15th. 16th is Brennan Hubbard. And then all your lapped cars, Yuki Tsunoda 17th, 18th Miles Rowe, 19th Callum Ilott, 20th Chet Jordan, 21st Ethan Martz, and 22nd Mahavir Raghunathan. And then your 2 DNFs, your causes for your 2 yellows, Ryan Priest with a late yellow flag, and David Malukas with an early yellow flag. So that wraps up the Indy 300 for this season. Up next, we go to our first short oval of the season at Milwaukee this weekend. A lot of money going to be paid out to these drivers, especially the Swindlers of the Immortals, who can probably expand to a 4th car, so look to that. But that is it from Indianapolis, and I'll see you guys at Milwaukee.